Hello, guys. I am Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran. I'm here with another beautiful, lovely. Sometimes she has been known to make this here man a sandwich. Wife of mine, light of my life, Yanzi Lynn.
Hi.
Figure out what side you're on there. And today is the day we're going to talk a little bit about OGNs with DC Comics shutting down its Burbank offices for the foreseeable future and going to a hot desk. Why doesn't the comic industry just go straight to graphic novels? We'll get into it. So my time spent at DC Comics, I worked on single issues that became trades, trade paperbacks, or a collection of monthly comics. And this actually had a negative effect on the stories of comic books. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. But before I do, please look down below. Please consider hitting like, subscribe, ringing the bell for notifications as we do talk about comic book news, geek stuff, all around, whatever we feel like talking about over here on this little channel. So me and Yanzi were talking about this, and we were just talking about trade sales in general. And with a lot of the things going around in the comic book industry, DC Comics getting demoted to hot desk, don't need office space anymore. And we were saying, well, what does this mean? Could they just eventually outsource, which they'll probably will eventually license, but why not just go to OGNs? And what was your thoughts on that, Yanzi?
First of all, they must be able to create an OGN that would be, a constant hot seller, I guess. So we're looking at some data over here from ICB2. This is the NPD book scan. Top 20 superheroes graphic novel for January sales. Clocking in at number 1 is a very old book, actually, by today's standards, Watchmen by Alan Moore. It sold 2.5K copies. So that is considered the top-selling kid book of the month.
Honestly, that's really good, though, for a book that's over 30 years old.
It is, but I'm looking at this list and we're seeing a lot of what you call the oldies but goodies, like Batman Year One, Batman The Killing Joke. Oh, I'm just gonna quote all the Batman things at this point, aren't I? And The Long Halloween and Sean Murphy's White Knight. What this proves is that, yeah, there are some books that you can consistently count on making sales in the top 20s, but they have to be what you consider an evergreen title. So can DC, can they generate evergreen after evergreen again? I mean, isn't that kind of like catching lightning in a bottle?
No, they can't. And the reason why is if you could generate one constant evergreen book one after the other is like, then every book would be an evergreen. Don't think that people don't sit down and they think every new story arc they're doing on a Harley Quinn, a Nightwing, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, they think it's the best comic idea ever because of ego. Everybody working on the book at any given point in time, they think they're doing it better than everybody else for the most part. And everybody really does think they're working on the next big evergreen. You kind of have to think that to put in your best, though. It's not really necessarily an ego thing. The issue with this conversation, though, whether it's licensed or not, is really a cash flow. This is why the industry rarely ever pivots into it. And again, I worked on Superman Earth 1. And I'm just going to talk some inside baseball on that. Paul Levitz wanted an original graphic novel series because Pride of Baghdad did really well through Vertigo by Brian K. Vaughan. And they also wanted not to be torn apart by internet reviews on single issues and instead try to get good reviews from a full story, 126-page graphic novel or something like that, by like the New York Post or something that they perceived as like highbrow criticism rather than just a guy on the internet, and that they felt that it was holding them back on a lot of their collections. Now, I really never saw that argument, don't really buy into that argument at all, but doing an original graphic novel presented a lot of financial problems for DC Comics, and you wouldn't think so because they're a big comic book company, but like I was basically paid, I think, for Superman Earth 1, probably ballparking up under $50,000, like on the way up under $50,000. And that was a cash flow problem for the company. Halfway through it, they were actually trying to take the inker off the book to save money. And you would think the company would have that type of capital, but they don't. They actually depend on the Diamond catalog and the single issues selling, money coming back from Diamond 3 months. And we saw this actually hit the industry really hard when the shutdown happened. This cash flow in the American comic book industry, they really just don't have the money in the bank just to go to OGN. Now, you would think they would or should, but you have to understand the heavy infrastructure of the American comic book industry is full of lawyers, talent relations people, editors, distribution people taking quite a bit of a chunk, and then the comic retailer, which they rightfully should, getting half the cover price. So a lot of the money you actually see on these books doesn't necessarily go straight to DC Comics. Now, so here's a predicament, right? Would the comic book industry be better if there were just more OGNs than not? And believe it or not, we've already seen this. DC Comics actually tried to push in with OGNs very heavily with the YA novel initiative, which I'm not Starfire. So again, like, why did they push in so hard with YA? Because page rates are a lot cheaper, because the art styles are more simpler, lower budget on the book. So the hard reality is for the American comic book industry to ever migrate to graphic novels, which I hear a lot of comic YouTube bring this up a lot, but it really, the way the sausage is made on this is, it's like, sure, if there's not enough capital, you're going to get these great original graphic novels, but even then, the issue is, how do you market all these original graphic novels? And then the other issue that comes out, because you need time and money to do that, is another issue presents is like the glut of floppy magazines. You can't just switch those to graphic novels, and the market can't take it. So there would be a lot less material coming out if it was original graphic novels. Some of these characters couldn't warrant an original graphic novel. Like, you would not get a Hawkman original graphic novel, but you could get a Hawkman miniseries that then crossed over with maybe Green Lantern or something like that, and it could pull some of the Green Lantern's audience into Hawkman, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of arguments why this will and won't work. Now, another thing that we came across that's interesting in this data is, if you take Watchmen on this list at 2,565 units, well, let's look at the manga list.
Top of the list for manga, again, MPD book scan results in January. Demon Slayer, Stories of Water and Flame, sold 56,000 copies. That is 20 times more than Watchmen sold in that single month. But maybe we're being too harsh. Maybe somehow, Watchmen outsold something on this list. I changed my mind. Yeah. Toilet Bound Hanako-kun Volume 12 sold over 10,000 copies, about 5 times more than Watchmen sold in that month.
Now, to be fair, and this is going to bring up the real argument here, and a lot of this as far as these sales go, is Toilet Bound is new. Watchmen isn't. Toilet Bound is coming from a manga industry which hasn't been doing propaganda comics for rounding off about 10 years. And they're not tied up in identity politics and things like that. And these books are just relatively fun for the most part. And they are very diverse. They are very diverse in character and story. Things like Dragon Ball, more like action manga, something like Chainsaw Man, which may be more considered, and Demon Slayer, which could be more like action horror manga, something Spy X Family, like the very diverse books. Whereas like in America, we're very conscious of or trying to push in diversity of skin color, diversity of sexuality, things like this. And we're getting further and further away from the story. So again, this is a roundabout way to get to this point, but like the question isn't, should we be going straight into OGNs? It's like, the question is, can we get back to just telling fun stories and then figure out the model we want? The model might not be the issue. The content we're making might be the issue. Again, going back to the American comic book list, why are things that were made outside of identity politics, like Watchmen, Batman Year One, V for Vendetta, Batman The Long Halloween, Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume Number 1. I mean, that's very old Brian Michael Bendis book going back, 9/11, like before 9/11. Like, I mean, yeah. So why are these things on the list and not the super woke identity of politics propaganda comics on the list? But anyways, I want to point out Inglorious Rex moving closer and closer to $249,000. Thank you guys for the support. This is an original graphic novel that me and Yanzi are working on right now. Please look down below, see the link. If you do want to consider buying this book, we thank you very much. And I will leave you guys with a trailer for Inglorious Rex.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a 6th sense for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the game. Can't control me. I got the power.